Hi guys, how are you today? Good. You guys have had a good day of classes so far? Okay, some mixed reactions, but it's the last class of the day, so we're good, right? Okay, great. Today we're going to start our unit on non-communicable diseases. We're going to focus on diabetes and do just a basic overview of the rest of them. But besides diabetes, can anybody take any guesses as to what a non-communicable disease could be? It's a big word. Philip? Correct. It doesn't spread to other people. Does anybody know what some of the other non-communicable diseases may be? Caroline?
Cancer.
Cancer is one of them. Anybody else? Diabetes, yes, you're so right. Okay, it's okay if you don't know them. We're going to go over them briefly today. Our objectives for this unit is that you guys can name our big 4 types of communicable diseases. You guys already know 50% of them, so you'll learn the other 50% in just a minute. We also want you guys to be able to name 3 preventative measures for type 2 diabetes. That's a big hint to some of the questions I'm going to ask later on, so pay attention to that. And then we want you guys to be able to identify the difference between the 2 types of diabetes, okay? So our big 4 today, we're just going to do a basic overview of what these are, and we'll go more into depth in the next couple of lessons. But we have cardiovascular diseases, which can include heart attack and stroke. We have cancers. The top 3 in the world currently are breast cancer, skin cancer, and lung cancer. All of those have different variations. Like I said, though, we're going to go more in depth next week about those. We've got diabetes, which is type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is commonly known as juvenile diabetes. It's more common in kids. And type 2 is adult onset. You weren't born with it. You didn't develop it as a child, although it is becoming more common in children. And then the last of our big 4 is cardiorespiratory diseases. This includes chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, high blood pressure, and asthma. Does anybody know anybody in their life that has any of these? A couple of you. Does anybody want to give any kind of example about what you've seen about any of these? Garrett raised his hand and then took it down really fast.
My uncle has diabetes.
Does he have type 1 or type 2? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but I think it caused an eye problem. Is that possible?
It is possible, yep. It's probably type 2 then, and it was probably not managed very well, which we're going to talk about more on how to manage it properly. We're going to watch this quick video, and this goes into more details about preventative measures for each of these big 4, and it'll give you a very basic overview of what we're going to learn in our diabetes, okay?
Cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, cancer, and chronic respiratory diseases are known as non-communicable diseases. In recent years, these diseases have increased as a result of population aging, urbanization, globalization, and changes in lifestyles, and they've become the great epidemic of our age. Non-communicable diseases can largely be prevented by adopting a healthy lifestyle, but to do so requires more than simply personal determination. For example, when wholesome food is more expensive and less available than junk food. When physical activity is a challenge because the parks and recreation areas are not safe or properly equipped. Or when it's hard to quit smoking or drinking because advertising of these products seems to be all around us. That is why laws and regulations are needed to make the healthy choice the easiest choice. Without these laws and regulations, more and more people will develop a non-communicable disease and need lifelong treatment that could ruin them financially. But there's still time to stop this epidemic from growing, and some countries in the Americas have already taken action by, for example, reformulating processed foods to make them healthy, informing consumers about the nutrition content of packaged foods, making more fresh foods available, regulating the sale of junk food in schools, as well as providing free drinking water, increasing taxes on tobacco, alcohol, and sugar-sweetened beverages, facilitating access to quit smoking programs, banning tobacco use in enclosed public spaces, and limiting the advertising of cigarettes, alcohol, and junk food. Creating opportunities for physical activity, including creating recreational bicycle paths and promoting the use of public transportation. Governments should ensure access to health services for its population, including access to early detection of disease, diagnosis, medicines, and treatment provided without discrimination and without undue financial hardship. People should be provided with information and support that empowers them to manage their own health, giving them greater control over their health and contributing to the health of their families. This way, all together, we can stop this terrible epidemic from getting worse and enjoy longer, more productive lives. Healthy public policies and healthy lifestyles are the prescription to prevent and control non-communicable diseases. Please.
Okay, great. So that video, like I said, it just gave us a basic overview. This is also just a reminder that you should not be on your devices during class. So if you could go ahead and put those down if you're currently on them, that would be amazing. So right now we're going to talk about type 2 diabetes. This is the most common type of diabetes in the world right now. This is our adult onset. So what does adult onset mean? You weren't born with it. It wasn't discovered as a child, most likely. So what is it? Type 2 diabetes is an impairment in the way the body regulates and uses sugar, which is also known as glucose, as a fuel. So what happens is your pancreas is not producing enough insulin, and the cells are responding poorly to the insulin, taking in less sugar. So we've got the signs and symptoms of what type 2 diabetes may look like. Can anybody tell me the difference in a sign and a symptom? What is a sign? Somebody besides Garrett, because he's been answering most of our questions. Maddie.
Sign is what you as a patient reports, and symptoms what the professional observes in your body.
Yeah, it can be that. A simpler, which it was a great answer, but in simpler terms, a sign is something that you can see or somebody else can see on you as you're presenting. And a symptom is something more of like you're going to be able to feel, not necessarily see on the outside, okay? So our signs for this are blurred vision, slow healing sores, numbness or tingling in hands or feet, and all of these are probably going to develop over time. They're probably not going to be something like, oh, I stood up too fast, I have blurred vision, I probably have diabetes. That's probably not the case. It's going to be a consistent, gradual growth in these signs as well as these symptoms. So our symptoms are increased thirst, unintended weight loss, and fatigue. The unintended weight loss is kind of a little bit confusing because diabetes is mostly known for overweight individuals. So that unintended weight loss can simply just mean that you are not doing anything different, but you're not keeping on the weight that you normally would keep on. Your diet hasn't changed or anything, but you're still losing weight. And that's one of our symptoms. So there are no cures for either type of diabetes at this point. There is only prevention for type 2 and treatment and management for both of them. So our prevention includes maintaining a healthy diet, which means eating whole foods, finding a diet that works for you. Some people really do well on like a paleo diet. Some people do well on a not structured diet and they just follow a strict grocery list. Stuff like that. And they avoid simple sugars. That's a big one for type 2 diabetes, is avoiding those really heavy saturated sugar foods. And then exercising regularly, Mayo Clinic, which is where we get most of this data, aims for 60 minutes a day of moderate activity. So for some people, that's as simple as getting up and going on a 60-minute walk, or maybe breaking it up and doing some exercise at home and some in the gym, stuff like that. Again, we want to find what works for you. If you have diabetes, you want to find what exercise regimen is going to work for you. And then we want to avoid inactivity. So If you're sitting on the couch, try and do some squats maybe while you're watching TV instead. Just really keeping your body moving and healthy. And then the next thing for prevention is finding a good doctor. If you have those symptoms and those signs, you want to find somebody that you can trust that can monitor the steps that are needed next. Type 1 diabetes, also known as juvenile or insulin-dependent diabetes, is a chronic condition in which the pancreas does not produce enough insulin. So this is different because it's not developed. It's something that you were born with, and it was something that your pancreas just didn't develop correctly as a child. So the risk factors can be family history. If you have somebody in your family who has been diagnosed with diabetes, it is more likely that you as a child will be diagnosed with diabetes. It's not a for sure thing, it's just an increased chance. There are also certain genes that contribute to diabetes. And then it depends on the age, but we see two major spike zones is what they call them. Ages 4 to 7 is the first age group, and then ages 10 to 14 is where typically type 1 diabetes is diagnosed. So that's where you want to watch for these signs and symptoms that we're going to talk about. The big sign for type 1 diabetes is sudden bedwetting. That sounds kind of silly, but by age 4, most children are potty trained. So if your child all of a sudden just regresses and starts wetting the bed at night or during nap time, that's probably a sign that something is wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean diabetes, but it's the most common one that parents find. You also have the blurred vision and fast heart rate, and then in children you can see extreme hunger, even if they've eaten a meal and 30 minutes later they're like, I'm hungry again. And not just like oh, can I have a snack? Like, can I have a cookie? They're hungry. And then unexpected or new mood swings is another big symptom that parents should be looking for. And then fatigue is the same as type 2 diabetes. So like I said earlier, type 1 diabetes does not have a cure. It is only treatment and management. So the big one is because our pancreas is not creating enough, you have to supplement the insulin. So most diabetics have to take 3 to 4 injections of insulin per day. That looks different for everybody. Some people take a shot, some people have pills, and some people are like once a month go to the doctor and they supplement it that way. It is super important to monitor blood sugar in diabetes, making sure that your blood sugar is staying at a healthy level and not being too high or too low. Ways to do this are blood tests. Has anybody ever seen somebody have to prick their finger and test their blood, whether in person or on a movie even? Yeah, so that can take a lot of effort. You constantly have to carry that around. Technology has really helped the game of monitoring blood sugar, where you can now get an injection patch on your arm, especially in children. This is helpful because it's not as constant. It's just there, and then you can scan it, and it'll tell you, oh, your blood sugar is great, or oh, you need to go and eat something. And then they also have emotional and medical support animals these days that can tell if an episode is about to happen. And then lastly, we want to maintain a healthy lifestyle, which is similar to type 2 diabetes. We want to eat a healthy diet, exercise regularly, and keep a healthy weight. Righty, we're going to go into a quick review. Who can tell me the 2 types of diabetes? Ryan? What are the other names for type 1 and type 2? Chelsea? Perfect. What are 3 types of prevention for type 2 diabetes? Duncan? Just one.
3 types of prevention. Don't eat candy.
Don't eat candy or maintain a healthy diet. How about that? Anybody else?
Exercise regularly.
Perfect. And then one more. Caroline?
Find a good doctor.
Find a good doctor. You guys are paying great attention. Good job. Okay, last review question. I want 4 new people for this. What are our big 4 non-communicable diseases? Perfect.
Cancer.
Yep. Philip?
Diabetes.
Diabetes. One more. Randy?
Cardiovascular.
Perfect. You guys got all of them. Okay. So next class, we are going to learn more about cardiovascular diseases, including heart attack, stroke, and congestive heart failure. So hold on to those notes because there might be a little bit of a review next week. Class dismissed.